Do you want to go to lunch early?
Go.
All right. Well, it is time for skills and drills, guys. I think all of you guys have done a class with me before, right?
Not me. My first time. Well, except for the last.
Except
2
for
days.
the last 2 days where you did a class with me. So that would be,
I'm looking at this as one continuous.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
from-
I was kind of looking at it the same way.
well, that's fair.
He's from California.
Well, we got okay. Well, format's pretty simple. We've got a stage over there that you can bang on a lot to practice. We'll shoot it cold this morning, kind of see where everybody's at and how we're doing. If you were here the last 2 days, I did change it slightly, so it'll be a little fresh, a little bit. All right. So, as you know, you're not going to get a whole lot better in 2 days. Life doesn't work that way, but you can get a good idea of what you need to do to progress, of course. So, if you were here the last couple days, we did lots of simple drills, dry fire stuff. You know, you're getting a good idea of what it is you need to do to practice. The idea for this, like the advanced stuff, is where you just combine more elements together and make it harder. So, for example, you notice you can think about one element of your shooting at a time, right? And kind of consciously control it. Maybe your grip, maybe something you're doing with your vision, your transitions, whatever. Everybody's on the same page here? Yeah, you can consciously control one part at a time. And after you progress and you have each individual piece of your shooting is pretty good, then you can start mixing more elements together into your training simultaneously. So that's kind of the theme with this class. Instead of just doing, like, hey, shooting on the move, and it's very, very plain drill, like kind of one-dimensional. Now it'll be like kind of transitioning back and forth and moving in a more complicated manner. If we're doing target transitions, instead of just doing sort of normal target transitions, we'll do some special circumstances, like really wide transitions from really close targets to far targets, things like that. So we're just going to be mixing in more elements and making things harder. All right, that's the idea here. Hopefully, again, you'll take away some ideas for your own training. You're going to leave here with homework, so you get a big book of drills. You should have a good idea of what to do and how to accomplish it, and leave with a reasonable plan. That's my whole goal. That sound cool, everybody? Yeah. All right. As far as safety stuff, it's going to be the same as normal. On a stage with this, like, one dude at a time shooting, one guy with a timer. If you're using a range officer, unload when you're finished, paste up the targets, just like you would in a match. Over on the drills, when it's make ready, like the range is hot as far as I'm concerned, draw your gun and like mess around with it. As long as it's safe to do so, there's no one down range. You can handle your gun as and when you need to. Reload if you like, when you have to. Just be ready to do more and more repetitions of drills, because we'll do quite a lot of repetition. Yeah, and then we'll break in the middle of the day for lunch, and I don't think there's much else to say, is there? All right, well, let's get started. I want everybody to shoot the stage cold, and then we'll get going on we'll kind of warm up, we'll ramp it up, and then we'll get going. All right, let's go. Hey guys, we're gonna start, I'm so resistant to this. We're gonna start with marksmanship fundamentals. I used to do this skills and drills class. I'm a very stubborn person. I used to like never ever start the class with fundamentals. But the fact is, we just got to work on marksmanship fundamentals. I just want to get into the shooting and moving right away, but we've got to do a little bit of fundamental warm up. So we're gonna do a familiar drill for you guys, but don't worry, we'll put a little twist on it. So it's these rapid fire pairs, doubles, right? Normally, my advice is, hey, look at a small spot, and then we're going to be focusing on our grip as we're shooting, right? Just making sure we're not over tensing the firing hand, making sure that we're proper grip with our support hand, right? These are the key things we need to do. We're going to do a lot of doubles here to warm up, and what we're going to do is require you to shoot maximum speed with your trigger finger, no matter how difficult we make it, no matter how far we back up or how tight we make the target. Okay? This is important because this is how you're going to hop on the learning curve the best. What we're going to try to do is create those issues. What do you think the most common problem is going to be? Yeah, you tense up your hand, you dive down the gun, or you tense up your hand, you get trigger freeze. That's the most common thing. We're going to try to reduce it. So that's a nice pattern, right? So what would you say? to me. Like, hey, go faster,
Go
right?
faster,
So I'm going to try to relax my hand just a little bit so I can run the trigger a little bit faster. And I should say, it doesn't really matter to me what type of trigger you have. Like, if you have a light single action, it'll be easier to rip fast splits. But even if you're shooting 15 splits into a tight pattern, I'll be, hey, go faster. I'll just say, try to go faster. Okay. Good. So as I tried to speed up, a little tension came into my hand, and I felt myself push this round down. It's exactly the type of error we're trying to induce. So I'd correct it moving forward, get my brain onto my hand, be like, hold your hand still, hold your hand still, hold your hand still. I find no matter how much I practice this, I can't really practice it enough. Now, at least 4 of you guys have, like you'd say, serious, like systemic problems with this, right? Like hand tension, diving the gun, or trigger freeze. Yeah?
Yeah.
I should see something. You're like, yes, that's me. Like, like this, like I tell the fundamentals classes, this type of training is half my ammo. Half. And it's for a reason. It's important. And you never really master it. You never really move past it. So I've caved in, and I start even the advanced classes with this because we have to practice it. Should we give it a go? All right. Give it a try. More fun shit?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so like I said, super important that you could look at a small spot, pull the trigger, be managing the gun, and send your shots more or less into that spot. Okay, now we're just going to do the same drill basically, but make it a little bit harder. So I will make a demonstration for you. As you can see, all we're doing here, we're going to shoot the left target from the left side of the barrel stacks, the right target from the right side of the barrel stacks, and the other 2 targets we'll shoot as we walk. What I want you to focus on here, and this is going to sound weird, I'm going to consider right now the barrels, the movement that you have to do, all that's just window dressing. That's not what I want you to pay attention to. Right? Let that fade to the subconscious. I want you to, walk through this and be focused very much on the visual piece. Okay? My friend Wanja came up with this drill. He calls it track the A zone, and it's that's kind of the idea. So what you'll do, look at your spot, draw and shoot that spot. Then I can't quite see the next target from where I'm at, so I'm gonna put my vision, like X-ray vision, through the barrel stack and be looking for where I think that target is. When I see my sight flash on that spot, shoot. Look to the next spot. When I see my sight flash on that spot, shoot. Okay? This is just looking at those spots and kind of ignoring the fact that the barrels are going to make targets appear and disappear, and that you're going to be shuffling your feet a little bit. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? What I want you to, like I said, focus on the visual piece of this. Look at small spots on the target, and that's probably how you're going to get your best result. Do you have any questions about this?
Do you care which of the middle 2 targets you hit first?
Do not care. Don't care. You can do it any way you want. All right? So the idea is I'll have everybody shoot through this. Then it's harder than it looks. So we'll have some things to talk about. I'll show you a way to practice it with less ammo, maybe highlight some things, and then we'll try it again. Okay, so this is like many drills. This is more interesting than it might at first appear. Okay, ready to give it a go, guys? Cool. All right, let's do it. So, what challenges do we see on this drill here? Shout them out when you know them.
Tracking the A zone.
Tracking the A zone
Yeah.
through the barrels.
You can see the visual piece was super important. Now I want to show you another piece that you're probably not really seeing, but I'll show it to you in an interesting way. So instead of shooting all 8 rounds, I'm going to fire only the first shot and only the last shot of the drill. Okay? Other times, I'm just going to touch my trigger. Now, if you accidentally set one off, no big deal. We're on a shooting range. We're in hearing protection. Okay? But I'm just going to touch my trigger. And I'm going to get very honest sight pictures and go through this. Okay? see, I went through there. It didn't look like too much drama, right? What I'm hoping to highlight for you is what's happening on these center 2 targets. Now, for most people, the center 2 is where you have a problem. Yeah, like those are the hard ones because you're kind of walking a little bit and the angles get a little bit funky. Okay, I'll try to really hammer this now, and I'll show you what most of you are doing wrong. Now all that excess tension, and I'm like whipping the gun around. It wasn't landing where I wanted on those center targets. Most of you are when you do this, like again, because we're not shooting in the center, you're going to see exactly how the gun's moving, and you're going to get really punished for any shoulder tension or any throwing the gun around. And just to recap, for the guys here for the fundamentals class, this is why when we talked about stance, it was like, yeah, I mean, I could get a super wide stance, low and aggressive, and tense up everything and use my whole body to fight recoil. And I can get like marginally better recoil control doing that. But as soon as you get put in a situation like this, where there's all this body tension, you're hosed. You cannot transition the gun accurately with all that tension. So that's the idea here. I want you to see that tension and release it from your shoulders and then just be super precise with your vision. Make sense to everybody? Like I said, it's like the other like simple 1 or 2 shot drills that we did, or if you were here for the fundamentals class, it's good. It shows you what's going on. Okay? All right, let's give it a try, guys. And any excess tension definitely screws you. Now, you're shooting this drill properly. Yeah, we do shoot all the time. I'll just tell you, under 4 seconds, pretty quick for like a USPSA, A class, M class type of dude. But you can push yourself. You can push yourself even more. Now, I think you pointed out like what happens a lot on this drill when you really get going with it is you'll look through the barrel for where you think the A zone is, then the gun pops up in the wrong spot, and you're like, shit. And then either you're going to eat bad points, or you're going to have to adjust your aim point, right? And it cuts into time. You get hurt one way or the other. It's just a matter of how hurt you get. So if you really want to challenge yourself on this, I'll show you what to do. What I'm going to do is stand still, and I'm going to shoot a fairly relaxed pace on this, just standing still. Okay? Well, maybe not relaxed, but so you saw the pace, heard it. Now what I'm going to do is challenge myself to match that pace as to make it sound the same way, even though I'm flowing through the barrels. What this is going to require is a couple things. I have to walk fast enough through here that I can like feasibly make it to the last target, right? If I'm not walking fast, I'm donezo's. Okay, so this is going to induce a lot of tension. Okay, and in order to make the time, wherever the dot lands on the target, I have to shoot, right? So to me, this is a really big push, but it's very, very helpful because it's going to show me, like it shows me exactly what's going on. So I'll challenge myself here. Total time was within 2/10, but you could see like, man, that's like we're flying like right on the edge, like flying by the seat of my pants. All right,
Almost out of control.
Yes, but it's like what I'm trying to develop is that tracking. Like I look to that spot, the gun goes right there. I'm accurate with that, even working through vision barriers. And of course, the more you push the speed, the more the tension comes in and causes problems. So if you want to do that, like that's appropriate for a few of you. You don't all have to do that, but like this is a good way to push the time and really show you what's happening. Yeah, that's pretty much what guys would be doing. Like, what do you think? Yeah. All right, let's give it a try. shot that plan because I want to talk about where the time really comes from on this. Now, did I fundamentally pull the trigger faster than anybody?
No.
No, probably a little slower. But the total time, 14 seconds. Where'd it come from? What's that?
Movement in your vision, having the gun up and ready when you got to the
Yeah,
position.
so what you noticed here is like as soon as I get over here and I get lined up, it's like, all right, look. Like in my brain, I'm just look there, look there, look there, look there. The foot stuff subconscious, look for that target, look for that target, look for the next one, look, and so on. That's why I was like, I'm just focused on those aim points. That's it. So it's very similar to the drill we were just doing. It's just, harder. So like that drill, that's why I really like it because it highlights the core style of shooting that you need to develop because this is par for the course for USPSA stages, right? This is just what they look like. So you got to be ready for this. So I can't emphasize it enough. Like learning to find those aim points, like that's where your conscious mind is, and you just let this stuff to take care of itself. That's the best way to go. Should we try it again?
Do you want us to shoot the same way?
No,
did?
you shoot any order you want.
Okay.
I just want you to have the gun mounted and you're managing your way into position and shooting as continuously as you can. I would like that. Sure.
Do you think that plan was as fast as the way that you would shoot it, or doesn't matter?
I think we talked about this, didn't we?
Right.
Doesn't matter. It's going to be consistency and comfort, and I hate this plan. I hate it. Now, show you what we're doing. We'll talk about it. Of course, we're going to have lots of fun. I want you to watch what's going on with my head. Okay? My head. Okay. What did you notice going on with my head?
We've been looking at where you're going to and then back up at the target.
All right. So what I'm doing is I have a job. And my job is to look at spots, right? Where I put my attention, it's kind of the theme today, where you put your attention is really powerful, right? If I look at a small spot, I hit smaller. If I look at the right spot, that's where the gun goes, right? It's good on a stage to direct your eyes around to the next job. Let me put it that way. So we have two jobs, right? Shoot and move, right? Sometimes on a stage, you got to look your magazine in when you reload. But typically, you're looking at spots you're going, and you're looking at targets you're shooting. And you can see, I was on maximum attack the whole time. Yeah? I look at a spot, it's like attack, attack, attack that spot. When do I look up to the target?
A foot or two before you get there.
Yeah, so I'm a couple steps away, and when it's time to start decelerating, braking, and looking at shooting, shift my attention up to the target, gun follows, my stance starts stabilizing, I'm fighting for stability. When the sight looks good, start shooting. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. So, first thing I'm looking for is that you're like spot, 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 and you just attack every job. The other thing here, obviously, a lot of movements. We got a movement exercise. I'm looking for you to try to keep your weight down low, knees bent, feet spread apart, fighting to get stable as you're shooting, because I want you to be able to snap direction change right away. So if I come in here properly, get nice and low, as soon as I feel like I'm done, boom, I can look to the next spot and away I go, rather than like standing up tall and kind of having to wind up and then take off. I don't like that. Okay, does this make sense to everybody? So when you're shooting this, like I said, you're gonna be like kind of fighting for stability the whole time, and you just look at the target, like kind of manage the sight, and when it looks good, shoot, look to the next spot, and away you go. All right, good, let's try it. This should be fun. Gentlemen, we're gonna work on target transitions. So the general advice that shouldn't surprise anyone when it comes to target transitions, look where you want to go, let the gun come to you, right? Yeah, you don't push the gun around, nothing like that. It's oftentimes counterproductive. So for our scenario here, I'm going to be shooting from the popper over to the side berm. And now we're going to start breaking the rules. Okay? So you can see the targets are spread out kind of wide. Are there any transitions here that you might want to start putting some juice on, start trying to go faster?
The left paper to the middle.
All right, that's one spot. That's a wide, we have a wide angle there. And then from the middle over here, these targets are much closer, but about the same angle of separation. Okay, so start looking for opportunities to pick up. Now, before we get too deep into this, I'll say like the general advice, look where you want to go, don't push the gun around. That's typically how you're going to operate on stages. When on our sample stage over there, for example, there's one transition in the stage that I put the juice on. One. All right, and anyone guess where it was?
Back steel, the front paper.
No, the left paper to the steel and paper.
No. It was from the lean to the port. Right? So that was the one spot in the stage where I applied this thinking, this technique. Where it's like shooting here, and I didn't want to like go, just look down and let the gun come to the target. It's like, all right, I'm done here, snap. Give me a snap and look into there. Okay, so you don't use this technique that much, but it's, and again, the general advice, look where you want to go, keep your shoulders relaxed, all that shit. You probably want to be very comfortable with that before you start adding the juice. You know what I mean? But if you see an opportunity, you can look at it like specifically like this one transition, I'm going to push the gun a little bit. You get what I'm saying? Be careful with this. All right. So I'm going to go through it dry and get a sight picture on each target. And it'll be look where I want to go, let the gun come to me. And you can see big delay on the transitions. Now, there's two things that you should carefully consider when you're thinking about the transitions. Both the angle of the swing and the target difficulty. You see what I'm saying? So swinging from here to the back target, if I start pushing that, I've got a relatively precise shot there, right? So I look at them like, probably not. But once I get done with that target, I can, put some muscle on this one transition here, right? Okay.
How much do you rotate your hips versus
I don't think
shoulders?
about that. I don't think about that stuff at all. Like I'm not driving I let my hips turn, but I'm not driving the transition from my lower body. Typically, I'm just like looking where I want to go. You get what I'm saying? See there, definitely the gun accelerated from that back target coming to the close ones, right? Now, what's difficult about this is that you're going to be changing up the tension in your body. So, for example, I put another close target next to the other close target for a reason, because you'll apply pressure, you'll feel some pressure in your shoulders as you swing onto it, and if you don't let that pressure go, what do you think will happen on the next target? Dunzos, right? So I set this up intentionally to make it tough. It didn't look very dramatic, right? But it was just a little acceleration there. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? This is all we're trying to do. Just like these scenarios are a little bit similar-ish. Look for a spot where you can apply just a little bit of push for one transition, and then relax yourself again and just carry on shooting as normal. It's going to be harder than you think. You have questions about this? That's pretty straight up. All right, cool. Let's get to it. Gentlemen, we'll start this morning with getting out of position. So the exercise, well, I'll show it to you, and I suppose we'll talk about it. It's the easiest way to do it. So as you can see here, the targets are set, I would say, mid to high difficulty. looking at these targets without thinking about it too hard, are you comfortable shooting into these on the move? No, that would be dumb. They're too far away. That doesn't make sense. Now, it's important when you look at a stage and you assess what you want to do. Like, even though it sounds dumb, you have to understand, like, smart Ben can go look at a stage and decide what smart Ben wants to do. But when the buzzer goes off, dumb Ben is going to be the one shooting. You know what I mean? That's how it is. So I need to look at this and be like, all right, it is my plan to stand still here. And I, like, mentally, that flips a few switches for me. So the normal style that you shoot is like very dynamic. You want to be able to flow in and out of positions, that kind of thing, right? But here, it's to my advantage to stand still and shoot and then hammer out of position, right? Because the targets are far enough away, it's going to be kind of inefficient and difficult to shoot these while moving even a little bit. So I'm going to consciously decide during the walkthrough, it's like, no, you stand still, shoot, and then away you go. So like the mental piece of this is really important. So when you watch me shoot, just the shooting on these targets, my body language said, like, I was very relaxed. You know, I just shot the stuff, right? It wasn't fast or slow. Watching my body language, it looked like I didn't really care how long it was taking, right?
Yeah.
This is important. So often people are in a hurry to go to the next thing. And I make a point here, the shooting's hard enough. It's like, no. Very, 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 very patient. Very patient with the shooting. As soon as I felt like I was done with the noisy part, what did you see happen? It was explosive, right? Like literally as hard as I can push out of position. And then, so we want that explosive movement. I'm gonna get that, we've talked about this a lot. Feet spread apart, knees bent, ready to move. This is what I mean by ready to move, by the way. It helps people mentally. Like, imagine you're gonna start a foot race with somebody. You know, if you're like, hey, Mike and I are gonna race, like, I'd probably want to start down like this, like ready to go, as opposed to this be my starting position, right? Yeah. So make a habit of, like, that's why in training it's so important. Like, your habit is get those feet spread out and you are ready to move. And the way you really check that when you're looking at yourself on video or something like that is the instant you decide to move, you see your shoulders start shifting in the direction you want to go. That counts as movement to me. If you see this, that kind of thing, when did I really start moving? Yeah, it was like I have this whole coiling up like a spring thing, boom, and then I took off. And now if I do that, I will feel fast because I'm going to be putting in a lot of effort, but it's clearly not efficient, right? Instead, I want you to set yourself up wide enough so you're not inclined to even pick up your foot and set it down, nothing. Like, you're in the starter blocks here. And the moment, like, yep, I assess I'm done with the shooting. The next thing I'm going to look over. I put the cone there to give you something to drive your eyes to. Look over to where I'm going and push as hard as I can, right? Step out, and then within one step, you can see now I'm running. That's what I want. Like, in one step, I put everything into it and I'm at a run. You heard me grunt out of position, the whole female tennis player thing, all of that. Okay, as hard as I can go. Attack that spot. Then, of course, roll over here, gun back up, and settle down. Okay? The hard thing for this drill, it's not the technique stuff so much. What you'll find is that as soon as you're in the habit of getting your feet wide enough, when you stop, you're gonna get out of position properly pretty much all the time, you know, without having to think about it. The hard part for this is that mental switch, where you're standing here shooting shots that are, you know, you gotta be on it. They're not impossible or anything, but you just have to be paying attention. Then when you're done, boom, that switch flips and you explode out of position. Okay? Wanna give it a try? Any questions about this? All right, cool. All right, let me show you guys what we're working on next. And then we will put time on it. So here, this is going to be, I would say, the more sort of dynamic style for getting out of position, right? So you notice what happened here.
You're moving on the last two.
You like,
Yeah, okay, so this is an important distinction. How was I moving?
leaning, like falling out of this.
Right. That's actually the cue I'm going to give you. So when you think about like, hey, I'm going to steal time on the stage by moving through stuff, like that's the obvious way to do it, right? Is to move in more places. Now you should define movement, like the same as when we're powering out of position, we're going to watch your shoulders and be like, hey, when your shoulders start to move in the productive direction, that counts as movement. This is the same. When my shoulders start moving in the direction I want to go, even though I'm not picking up my feet, that counts. That gives me an advantage, right? Just getting my center of gravity going in the direction I want it to. So what we're going to do here is you look at a stage or some part of a stage and you assess it like, okay, I can get a little advantage kind of rolling out of position early or falling out of position early. On our stage, where do we have a spot like that? Got a few of them, right? Yeah, there's plenty of places on most stages where you can look at this and apply it. Like maybe you want to shoot rolling your shoulders backwards, forwards, sideways, whatever, but there's usually places to do this. So if you look at a stage, you'll say, hey, all right, these targets look acceptable to me to start rolling out on, right? How would you know if they're okay for you?
Gut check.
Gut check, yeah, training and experience. Okay, if you don't train, you're not going to know. What you should not do is just follow the herd or that kind of thing, or get sucked into stuff you don't understand. What you should do is like, hey, try this stuff a little bit in practice, understand what you're comfortable with, what your capabilities are, and then try to apply that stuff in matches. Now this style, I'd say is like 5 times more complicated than the previous style. Well, why? Okay, before, when we're just standing, it's like stand static, shoot very patiently, then explode whichever direction you need to. That's very simple, right? Sometimes that's appropriate, but it's a really simple technique. Now this is more complicated because I need to have a lot of experience to learn how to apply it. Now let me explain what I mean. I started rolling out after this target back here, right? Okay, because I was comfortable rolling on these two. Now let's say I take this no-shoot target and put it at this angle, where it's like almost on the 90. Would it be this? Would I treat it the same or different? Different, right? I'd probably be like, okay, I'll shoot these, then roll into just that one, or whatever. The scenarios that you can come up with are pretty much unlimited. So it always looks a little bit different, and you have to be like, again, you have to know kind of what you're comfortable with, and then try to apply it. So that's the first thing to say is if this is really complicated, you have to make sure you experiment a little bit in practice, because this is not an easy thing to do. Okay. Second, I want you to think about this like you said it perfectly, falling out of position. So that idea is a good one to put in your head, because what I'd like you to do is keep your feet relatively flat. If I have my stance here and I pick up this foot, you can see it moves my hands, right? So just to get my little advantage and get moving a little early, I'm going to fall in the direction I want to go. And notice how stable that is, right? Now this is going to be trippy for people. Since you feel off balance, you're going to want to start speed up your shooting, right? Yeah, and what I'd like you to do is not do that. Like, you're going to be kind of falling in the direction you want to go, but at the same time shooting very disciplined. As soon as you feel like you're done, then you hammer your feet into the ground and away you go. But that moment when you're off balance in the air, kind of hanging there, people like to speed up their shooting for whatever reason. Very frequently, like on this target here, very frequently it'll be first shot, second shot like that. Just be like boom, boom, like that. Very, very common because people are in a hurry to get done with the target because they're feeling off balance and they perceive that they need to start rushing. If you do nothing else, just try to resist the temptation to start rushing. Okay? Another thing to point out here, it's really important that once you start falling, you don't let the momentum stop. So if you do this, shoot a target like that, you know, stop, 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 as you transition through, you're not going to be picking up, you're not going to be moving fluidly in the direction you want to go. You have to start rolling and keep rolling. And then once you're done, away you go.
So the timing is really important of when you start initiating.
It's how many targets, you know, yes, timing is very important. And I say this, you got to give yourself extra time. So you watch here, I have a lot of hang time before a lot. But you want to make sure you have extra, so if you need an extra shot, you can take it, again, without feeling rushed. Okay? You don't really commit to anything until the shooting's done. Then you can see, then you put the pressure in and away you go. Okay? Does this make sense, everybody? One other reminder here, you are moving a little bit, so again, target focus becomes super important. Look right where you want to drive those bullets. If you can hold on to your sight, you're going to start pushing shots in the direction you are traveling. Okay, because you won't be tracking that spot. So like, for example, if I was going to shoot Mike, not that I would, when I look at a spot here, I just track that spot by looking at it. If I look at my sight itself, I'll track right off of my target. See that? So target focus, very critical. Any questions about this, guys? All right, well, let's give it a go. After it. At least you're going to lie about it, which I appreciate.
No,
Mine is
Mike's
neither.
not lying. Okay, let's apply the stuff we were working on earlier. One option. So let's say you want to start over here. If you want to roll out of this position, where's your option to do it? Here, right? And just based on the drill we just did, now this probably makes more sense why I'm not a huge fan of rolling out backwards. Like, it takes a lot of training, it's hard to do. But if you want to, we just start destabilizing yourselves here, then snap a transition over to the next target. That's one option. Okay? Let's say, well, nobody else is going the other direction. Let's say you're going to start here. How do I roll out of here?
Depends which way you're going.
So I'll set myself up so I can see everything, shoot, and get rolling a little bit if possible. I might have to take a step back when I draw. But not very easy to do. I would definitely strongly prefer going this way, for sure. Right, any other lessons from the training we did this morning?
Break earlier than you think you need to.
Yes, you break earlier than you think you need to, and some guys are having trouble getting down into their stance. So think about over here, you set up, get down nice and low. So again, I can hammer this transition. If I'm up and off balance like this, now it's just more work to get down low. It really is. Okay, so let's try to apply a little bit of what we've been doing. Okay, we'll do 2 runs each. Just go. All right, let's get it going.
So in your estimation, Ben, rolling out on that paper is too risky?
On this one?
Yeah.
It's not too, yeah, it's doable. I mean, I shot it that way yesterday. It's doable. I just don't, would I pick to do that?
Not your
Probably
preference.
not. I kind of like starting here and then just a hard step in because there's not really much of a wait for this next target. So I would probably just do that. It'd be easier. All right. I like drugs.
Because they
Does
work.
it work? Yeah. No matter what they tell you. All right, we're going to work on getting into position, gentlemen. So I'm going to make a couple of examples for you, and then we'll talk.
Oops, I need yours. One second.
Hold it. Turn this on, I guess. One example. Let's do another. Okay. Can we note any differences between these 2 examples?
Slower movement and more shooting.
Exactly. That's what I want you to pick up on. So, here's what I'm looking for. You see scenarios like this in matches a lot, right? You have targets kind of available as I work my way to someplace I need to be, right? You see this a lot. Now, what I'd like you to do is look where you want to go, push over there. How aggressively should I move?
Aggressively to that one.
How aggressively?
Very.
Yeah, I'm going to push out of position, maximum speed and aggression. Where do I need to be? Where do I need to end up?
Where you can see.
Yeah, where I can see the inside target, right? So I got to end up over here somewhere. Okay, so this is what's tough for people to pick up on.
So where do you start slowing down though?
This is the question.
Yeah.
All right, so I need to be here. Here's what the idea I want you to put in your head. I'm going to go from here to there, maximum aggression. I'm going to start hitting the brakes, So I slow myself down and get stabilized for it, right? And if the targets are, when I'm slowing down to stop, I'm gonna mount the gun. If the targets are appropriate, I'm gonna start shooting. Like as soon as the sight looks good for that target, I start shooting, yeah? That's what I wanna do. So when people see a scenario like this, instead of moving in aggressively and shooting as they're setting up into position, like the first example, instead of doing that, they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna save some time and shoot on the move, right? So then they'll kind of artificially slow the movement down here. And then did you notice how much slower the actual shooting was? It was like, shoot here, get tucked into my stance, and then shoot there. And it ended up slowing everything down, even though most shooters would be like, hey, that feels more efficient to me. You see people do that in matches a lot, right? It's very slow, but shooting on the move, and they think they're saving something.
So scenario one was the desired.
That's what I want. You go from point A to point B really aggressively. As you're slowing down to stop, mount the gun, shoot as it's appropriate. What I don't want you to do is artificially rein in the movement in order to create an opportunity to shoot on the move that doesn't in reality exist. You get what I'm saying? So, a couple notes about this. Normally when you're measuring stuff in training, we're gonna be looking spot to spot. That's what we're focusing on, right? Spot to spot time. There's another time that you should pay attention to as well. And that'd be the time from this target to this target. That time's of particular interest. Why might that be the case?
When you say time, you mean time to move the gun?
No, time, like shot to shot time between the targets, the transition.
So
time.
It's a fairly wide transition, and you're transitioning from a high risk target to a low risk target.
Right, I'll give you guys the answer because this is weird. People don't usually consider both sides of a situation. So let me put it to you like this: if I'm rolling over here really slowly, shooting and then shooting here, the transition time's going to be longer, right? Yes, the transition time between the two targets is longer. If I'm in position and more or less stabilized, the transition's a lot shorter, right? The transition time. So what I'd like to put in people's head, or put the idea to put in there, is that as you're getting positioned here, it should look and sound very close to you just standing still and shooting. You know what I mean? It'd be like if the pace is ba-bop, 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 if I'm just standing here, I want to come really close to that as I roll into position aggressively. Does that make sense to you? I want to be, as we've been working on for days now, I want to be able to set my feet down into my stance as I'm shooting and be really, really close to my static shooting performance. I want to be that stable. Does that make sense? As opposed to slowing everything down and being kind of unstable and upright and not really planted. That's not what I'm looking for. I know this is kind of weird, but
I've heard other instructors describe similar situations as what trying to shoot instead of like faster shooting earlier into the position, but you seem to be saying kind of the opposite of that, where you don't mind shooting a little bit later if it gives you.
I want to shoot as early as I can shoot, but I'm not going to slow my movement down a bunch to like make that happen, right? I still need to get where I need to be aggressively. So in theory and training, it's pretty easy to shoot on the move a lot, but then if you think about what actually happens on stages, making it simple and making it easy to be aggressive pushes the times down, right? It makes it easier to do.
So you're not shooting on the move just for the sake of shooting on the move. You only
Fuck
do that
no.
if it gains you time.
Exactly. And I don't just think in terms of time. I want it to be easy. I don't want to add risk unnecessarily. Right. Shooting on the move is I don't know. It's not what people think it is. People think that it's a lot of heel to toe roll stepping and this kind of thing. That's what shooting on the move is. But if you're actually seeing like the style of shooting that I have people do, it's more like just around the edges of a movement. So I'll move over here, and it's like that is shooting on the move to me. Like my shoulders were still rolling into position. I was still moving, but it doesn't look the way people think it would look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, exactly, because I've been told, if you can shoot something on the move, you should be moving to it and shooting.
Yeah.
You should never be standing still, but that's not necessarily true. Because if
That's
you slow
not
down
even
a
close
lot,
to true. Yeah. If like, there's a lot of times where it's nice to stand still, right? So let's say I have to come over here and smack this stuff, then go over there, right? I'd want to finish. If I finish shooting planted like this, really nice, then I can aggressively charge out of position. I want to get my feet down set in that kind of ready to go stance. You didn't see him. There's a kid here over the weekend that his style was very floaty. Like he'd kind of float through the stage and keep moving. And it was awesome. He could shoot great on the move, but he would never just plant his feet and hammer shooting in transitions, right? He never really wanted to settle his feet. So it slowed him down a lot. It's just because he had that style where he never wanted to plant. So I don't really like that. I'd say, hey, if you're going to stop moving, you should set your feet so you can rip out of there aggressively. That's what I'm looking for. That makes sense to everybody?
So in a way, if you can get to a position faster, effectively, and stabilize yourself and shoot, as opposed to thinking you're making time up by shooting while you're moving, which may not be as clean shooting.
Exactly.
It's better to do that.
But how do you do that without becoming like the old production style? Run, shoot 8 rounds, run, shoot 8 rounds, or is that not a bad thing? Like, you know how production, especially like earlier class production shooters, they would always look at a stage you shoot your 8 rounds at your first post, and then you go to your second post, you shoot your 8 rounds, and you're not moving.
What does it have to do with production?
Well, because they always think in 8 rounds at a time. At least I always used to.
I don't know. To me, it doesn't make any difference what the equipment is. It's just, if I have a dot, I can shoot more on the move. Or if I have more ammo, then I don't have to reload as much. But fundamentally, it doesn't really change what I'm doing. If I have major, I can shoot more loose. It just changes your approach, but only around the margins, right? Fundamentally, I shoot the same style no matter what division or equipment it is.
And I guess if you could shoot and run as fast as you can effectively, then it doesn't matter. But if you can run way faster to a position and stabilize yourself,
I'm not telling you not to shoot on the move. I'm telling you when you shoot on the move, you don't have to slow yourself down to artificially do that, or keep your feet moving all the time to make it look good. Or shoot whenever you can shoot on the move. I'm not saying to do those. It just shoot on the move. Shoot on the move where it makes sense, and it doesn't make sense as much as people think it does.
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we give it a try.
Yep.
I'm with you. Tell me more about steroids.
He's Kyle was prednisone.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll give you that too if you've got, an
The side aside from fixing my migraines, it has the side effect of acting like cocaine for me. So I
It
was
makes you hyper. Oh yeah?
yeah. I wrote like
Because I tell you, it makes every joint pain go away.
yeah.
What
It
I've been
is.
hearing is that cocaine is the drug of choice now in the military because it's out of your system so fast.
Makes sense.
He worked on Wall Street, you know. He knows the deal. All right, we're gonna we're gonna have a drill here that's a little bit complicated. So the focus here is gonna be on positioning. So here's the idea. You start on this cone, you whack one target from this cone. You're gonna go over to the green cone and whack the one target from that cone. Okay. All these other targets you're also going to shoot, except you're gonna be standing uprange of this fault line, and your shots pass between the barrels. Okay?
All of them?
All of your bullets go between the barrels. So imagine this is like an opaque wall here. No, you're uprange of it. Yeah, there you go. So you stand on this side of
Shoot
the
him as
fault
you
line.
see him.
Yeah, you get it. Right, so you look at this, you're like, oh, this is a bit of a cunty exercise, I'm not gonna lie. All right, but this is something you have to work on. So the challenge here is positioning. So what I want you to do is look at this the way you look, and I should say this sort of challenge is very common in stages, right?
Yeah, it is.
You see this sort, maybe not this hard, but this sort of deal. All right, so what I'd like to do is work out your positioning. All right, so first you got two choices fundamentally when it comes to finding a position. You can either have your eyes up on the targets, or you can look down at a spot on the ground. Without knowing anything more, I'm going to prefer that your eyes stay up on the targets, right? And when you look down at the ground to find a spot, when?
Before you're coming in.
No. Under what circumstances would looking at the ground be the play?
Tight spot.
Yeah, if it's a tight spot, like I need to be right up against the fault line, or maybe I even get an advantage, leaning. And if I'm here, I'm good. If I'm here, I'm fucked. If I'm here, I'm fucked for a different reason, right? In that situation, I want to look exactly where to put my foot. Typically, you don't have to be that precise, do you? So we can think about it in terms of eyes up. Okay. With that having been said, I want to break this into something that makes sense and how to nail these positioning. So, we've got one distinct position here for this target. I'm gonna find it with my eyes up, make sure I stop, feet spread apart, knees bent, be very disciplined, shoot it, and then I wanna move. Now your tendency is gonna be to see the next target you wanna shoot, like this popper, and stop, right? That's not really the play, is it?
No.
No. So I wanna break this up so I can see these two together, and then this one by itself. So the play for me, based on experience, would be look for this target, stop, look for the popper, and then I'm gonna put the popper up against the edge of this barrel stack. I can move no further and still see the popper. There I know I'm good, right? I can then see the other target. That target's challenging, right? As far as confirmation wise, I want to be dead stopped, and then it'll be dot press, super patient, right? You plant it there, and then the next position will be the same. Look over, place the popper up against the wall. Okay, I can get both. Now here, we have a problem because I have to move at this angle and probably shoot at this angle, so that's too much for me to manage looking this way. So after this one, I'll give a glance down and then look back up to make sure that I can, move the correct direction. Does that make sense to everybody? You notice people have a hard time moving the right direction. So here, I'll look over this way, grab this target, wherever it is, here. Look over here, grab this target, and then look to the cone and run there. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna be positioning myself properly, walk through this, really come up with a plan just like I would do it at a stage.
So you're going to want, right, if you're doing it for a stage one, I know that one's the problem. I'm going to pick out a spot. I'm not just going to I'm going to say, well, I need to get here.
Yep.
So as the last one, I'm going to go look. Okay, then now I'm good. Then I can turn and see now
Exactly.
I know I'm in the right
I think I'm gonna be looking for the this joint here.
Right. Yeah.
Like the second joint, but I'll need a way to pick that.
Right.
So you're not, those two cut apart, you're not shooting those from between the barrels.
Yes, I am.
You-
This is for here. This is this target that you're not seeing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the target I'm not seeing, okay.
The thing about this drill, it's worse than you think.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah, that's an arrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Okay. I didn't even see that
It is.
target.
So you said the first shots are at that cone that you're
But
shooting.
everything you said's irrelevant because we're starting there.
What?
Well, you're coming from there,
in this
and
direction.
you're going to see. You're coming. The first thing you're going to see is
start-
not those.
You can start at each side you
You
want.
can start either way, Ken. I don't give a shit. That's not the point of the point of the exercise is nailing your position. So but that's a good observation. This plays out very differently going the other direction, doesn't it?
All I meant is that you started from there.
I'm going to start from there.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm going to start from there.
No, you're going to start from there.
I'm going to start from there.
Then you got to go.
No, you'll do it both ways. Just for fun. But so you get the idea here, right? I'll make a demonstration for you. So I'm going to walk through this. Maybe I'll verbalize what I'm looking for. Okay. Look at the spot here. Eyes up on the target. Mount the gun early. Stabilize. Be very patient. Look over. Popper up against the barrel. Very patient shooting on this partial. That's a real bitch there. Okay. Look over. Popper up against the target. Okay. Second joint. Target. Back up. Okay. So I'm nailing in those spots. What's that?
No, when you first said it, I thought you said shoot that one, run all the way there,
No,
shoot
no.
that one, then go do that.
I was drunk when I said that. Don't worry.
Okay. Now I believe you.
One thing to point out, this last target, you might have noticed my shoulders kept moving a little bit. This target here. This one I gave myself permission to roll my shoulders a little bit because it's relatively easy, not that high risk. So I feel comfortable with that. Okay? This is, as you can tell, this is a very challenging exercise, but it's very good for you. Develop this, you become a madman on stages, like learning how to pick your spots, nail your positions, then just focus on the shooting. One thing to point out, or maybe emphasize, you noticed how I was very stable and patient when required. And then when I could get away with it, I'd start shooting. So for example, transitioning here onto the popper, I have no problem launching that one really early on the popper, right? Like the sight flashes on it, it's not that high risk. I've got extra ammo. It's not gonna be the end of the world if I miss it. So I'm like really happy to, you know, start shooting early. But when the shots are demanding, lots of discipline. Sound good? All right. Probably walk it through and then we'll shoot it. Make sure we understand the challenge here. The ejection with his leg hanging on by a tendon, that's pretty badass. Yeah, he was fucked up. It's actually kind of an amazing story, really.
It is. Did he live?
Yeah. All right, guys. We're gonna have some fun now, huh? Now this is a drill that, honestly, this drill is fun, it is helpful, and it's gonna hits a lot of issues. So I'll tell you what I want. I'll make a few examples for you. You get the idea here? All right, so our targets, think of all the A zones as a separate target. Now, normally for a USPSA match, you slap 2 on the head, you're good to go, not a problem. Believe it or not, I'm really trying to shoot this credit card. Now it's tight and it's tough, you know, I'm not gonna get too bent if you're like scratching around the edges, but if you tense up your hand and you start shanking him down, start going down to the neck, that bothers me. I want you to really make an effort to put him into the credit card, okay? Just as far as so you understand what I want for the target. Now, the idea here is to shoot at the pace of your vision. It's a lot of shooting fast, right? It's like a 3-second drill, 8 shots, it's quick. This is gonna build up a lot of tension, right? Okay, so think about all the things that are gonna happen here. Because of the speed of your shooting, your firing hand is intensive. Because of the speed that you're trying to go, your shoulders may be tense up. You're trying to spin around on the side. Because of the speed of the shooting, it's hard to pick out a spot at speed. We're gonna change up the order so you're constantly changing aiming schemes. So down here, remember, react to the color, and it's 2, as quick as you can get them out of the gun. On the credit cards, how do you want to address those? Well, small spots in either case. What do you think? Dot press, that kind of thing. So you're changing up aiming schemes as well. So even though it's a simple little 8-shot drill, there's a lot of things that can go wrong here. Hand tension, shoulder tension, transition and precision, eye discipline, and you have to learn to change aiming schemes, right? Which is something you do on the fly all the time in matches, right? Theoretically, yes. Actually, like once you get to the A or M level, maybe a little bit better, maybe like solid M, most of your marksmanship training is in the context of changing between gears. Because what you'll find, like, think about, well, you've done a fundamentals class, right? Yeah, so you think about, yeah, so 2 of them? Jesus. So you think about like a fundamentals class, we do a lot of doubles and practical accuracy and all that shit, a lot of shooting, but the target is just at one distance as you're working on it. So you kind of get into the groove for that target at that distance. You step back, move forward, or whatever, and then you kind of get into the groove again. Once you understand all that stuff, the challenge is kind of changing between the aiming schemes, right? It's changing between that stuff on the fly because that's how you actually apply to the match. So that's why this drill's good. It's fun, it's quick, it's easy to set up, and it's helpful. So that's why it's a good one. I like it.
So you said each pattern is different.
You notice I was changing up the order every time just to make a demonstration for you. For diagnostic purposes, I mean, you'd want to shoot the same order like 4 or 5 times, then paste everything, assess the target so you can kind of pick out those patterns. You don't necessarily want to change up every time. I was just making some examples. But it's about a 3-second drill.
From the draw.
Well, I mean, the quick order I think is low to high. Let me see here. The quick order for me. little bit of hand tension here, clip it right at the edge. So that, like, kind of that's the level I'm kind of feeling what's going on. A little more aggressive, but that you can see it's fast. So you're running the gun the whole time, so that's why the hand tension's a big one. And you will see on those credit cards people pushing down. The other thing that's super common, people will burn these two, and they'll have tension in their shoulders. Then they'll try to push the gun up to this credit card and be like, and the gun goes over and comes back down. So oftentimes people will miss that first shot over the top. I mean, like I said, for such a seemingly simple thing, it's so fast that it induces a lot of interesting things.
So you're actually shooting hit and body.
All different.
Go.
You can do it any way you want to do it.
Head, body, body, head, head.
Your strategy as far as
No strategy.
no strategy. Okay.
It's not a strategy.
Ken's right. It's not a strategy thing. Like what I'd like to see from anybody, like training wise, is that, hey man, I'm comfortable any order. Like maybe it's a little quicker or slower or whatever, but I'll shoot any order. No big deal. That'd be what you want.
So you miss it and then just overshoot.
That happens sometimes. Yeah. All right. Should we get to it? All right, cool. All right, guys. Time for a chat. So, I promised you homework. So let me explain what's in this and how to use it. So you guys have a good idea now of how we should use drills. Instead of saying explicitly before, I'll say it now. Every skill that we're working on, you notice we'll work on the skill in a way where we strip away as much other crap as possible, right? Where it's like we're really specific about what we're trying to accomplish on each drill, okay? And then as you shoot the drill, the idea is that you understand what it is that the problem is for you, whatever it is you're doing wrong. Hand tension, picking spots with your eyes, shoulder tension, movement technique, whatever it is. The idea of coming out here and shooting is to kind of show you in a way that you can't really ignore, like to show you what's happening. Okay, and what should you do with that information? You come out here and you shoot drills for a couple days. What do you do with that? That's the question. And I'm going to give you my recommendation. Make a list. Every little thing it is you want to fix. I would rank order it. Most important thing is marksmanship related. Why is that the most important thing?
You have to hit your target. It doesn't actually. None of the other shit matters.
Yeah, that's the obvious thing. The less obvious thing is that if your marks, like if your gun, if you're not hitting where you point the gun, if you're not shooting where you look, then it makes diagnosing and fixing other issues very, very, very challenging. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's say you have a little shank you do occasionally, and you're working on like position entry technique. So it becomes difficult to determine, like, hey, did I whack my foot to the ground and bounce that shot down, or did I snatch the trigger down? You know what I mean? It makes every element of trying to figure out what's happening with your shooting much, much more difficult. So grip, trigger control, marksmanship fundamentals at speed, that's the primary thing you got to develop. It's the most important thing for that reason, is that from that, all other things flow. Okay, so I'd recommend make a list of the things you want to change. Okay, and then you're going to change these things in dry fire. Okay, so anybody, shout out something you'd like to fix about your shooting. Yeah.
Marksmanship at higher speed. I mean, like the shooting where I want to go doubles faster.
Right. So the way that you so you think about the things that you have holding you back from that. It's like the grip needs to be the same every time. You got to get rid of your shoulder tension, right? You got to get your hand tension correct. You got to make sure you look at the right spot on the target, and you've got to make sure when you pull the trigger, the shot goes straight. So these are all issues that you specifically had, right?
Yeah.
So think about the dry fire drills we can do. Like we're going to work draw into our grip at speed, right? Do this time after time. Every repetition, you consciously, your brain goes there. It's like, is my grip right? Yes, no. It's not just, did I draw the gun fast? I'm assuming, as you guys know, if you do a little bit of dry fire, you don't have to be a genius to whip the gun out of the holster in under a second. That's not really that hard. But getting a gun out of the holster with your grip rock solid, the hand pressures you want, all that stuff consistently at that speed, that's a whole different deal. And I recommend thinking about your draw in that way. So anyway, you're like, okay, I want to change my grip. So you dry fire into your draw for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to work on that trigger control. So you remember that drill where it's like aim the gun, react to the beep, and press straight away. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that one for 5 minutes. Maybe I want to make it harder and just go strong hand only on it and really make sure I hold my hand still, like really level up, right? Work on that for 5 minutes. Okay, hey, I want to do some, visual precision or something. So I'm gonna take the target, like simulate a 25-yard target, add a couple tenths to my draw into that. Stuff like that. I mean, checking my shoulder tension, my hand tension, you start working that stuff out. If you train like that, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day for like a week on those few issues, right? Then you go to the range, shoot live ammo a little bit and just see what's happening. You know what I mean? See like, hey, I believe I fixed this. Did I or did I not? In a sense, your live fire training is gonna validate or invalidate your dry fire training.
And the live fire drill with the single target where you shoot bang,
Exactly.
bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, exactly.
That one drill is
That doubles as a winner.
Double.
Big winner. Yeah. All right. So that's what I do. So for me, like at the end of every season, I have that list and it goes up on my wall, my dry fire area. Like here's eight technique things I want to. This is the things I want to fix, And I just work on the drills that hit that thing, and then work on some stuff where you put it all together. Like I work on those things, consciously assessing those. And the idea with your dry fire training is to change your habits. That's all. It's just change your habits so your habits are what you want. Because as you see out here, everybody here intellectually understands what you're trying to do. You guys aren't stupid. Everybody understands what it is you want to do. The problem is getting your body to cooperate with you. And training, getting smooth with it, repetition, and making it second nature. That's really the objective of your training. And I recommend approaching it that way. You with me so far? Yeah, okay. So what's in the book here? Okay. I've gone through several iterations of kind of drill material, as you may or may not know.
I have every book.
Yeah. So this has been, it took many, many years to get to this. But what we've got to is a book of drills with some training tips up in the front. And then what I did is split it into levels, okay? And as you can see, the hashes on the side, these are the 4 different levels. You notice the hashes get bigger as you go along. So what you have is levels that are designed to get you to a certain place. Level 1 is get through a match, safely without shooting any penalties, to be able to do that. Way harder than it sounds, right? Yeah. If you've never fired a gun before, or whatever, just getting to where I can safely compete a match, I can make every shot, I actually come out to the range and I shoot through a match without any penalties. Like, have any of you done that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, Ken's done it, but Ken's is one of the best steel challenge shooters in Eastern Florida, in the central East.
Florida.
Fuck you, Ken. Yeah, but I mean, shooting a clean match is harder than it sounds, right? So like, don't disrespect getting to that point. And level 2 is like, hey, B class. And the next level up is like, MGM type of dude who's competitive with those guys. Kind of where you want to go. Then the next level up is, literally training for world domination, super grandmaster type of stuff. Like the 4th level is appropriate for very, very few number of people. You notice, but as you try to progress, you get an expanded set of drills with different time standards. And there's a good reason for this. Okay, so let's say on our stage over here, you're shooting it in 30 seconds. That's where you're at, 30 seconds. You don't really need to be very specific with your training to shoot it in 22 seconds, do you? I mean, if you think about it, be like, hey, work on your marksmanship, all right? Work on rapid fire, making sure the gun shoots straight, all right? And then all you do is say, hey, dude, just go faster, until you start to push down to that. Then you get to a point where to cut the next couple seconds off, you have to start changing techniques, right? You have to make sure you're setting up properly in position, you can move. Then to cut, a little more time off, you have to start rolling in and rolling out of position. And it gets exponentially tougher to shave time off the faster and faster you get. Does that make sense? And it has to be more and more specific techniques. So if you're here for the fundamentals class, so it was like movement was like spot to spot and like pretty much not much fucking around with that. Just trying to get people used to the idea of shooting off balance. Now when it's more advanced, there's like, hey, okay, rolling my shoulders out of position on this one, and like looking at a spot, driving for a couple steps, remounting the gun, and shooting. The techniques become more specific. And each one of those techniques, should you choose to try and use it on a stage under pressure, you have to have trained it in to where you don't have to consciously think through it to do it, right? It becomes much tougher as you move up. And that's why you need an expanded and more specific set of drills, okay? Now the format in here, try to be as helpful as I can. So for example, let's find a good one. Here's a funsie. So here's like a drill accelerator. We didn't shoot it, but 3 targets, you know, close, mid-range, far, working on changing up aiming schemes as you shoot, right? So that's a nice idea. Lays out the drill, gives you some time standards, then it shows you some patterns on the target. And again, if you shoot the same order every time, then you kind of look at the book and give you an idea of like, all right, this is what I'm seeing on the targets. I check the book, like, all right, I think this is what's happening. You know, shoot it some more, pay attention, and you start to understand what it is that's actually happening. Okay? There's lots in here, but it's good stuff. I'll make another general recommendation. I think you should split your training half marksmanship and half dynamic movement stuff. If you're really sick good, like master class guys, grandmaster guys, they're going to do less marksmanship and probably more dynamic shooting skills, right? If somebody's newer or has trouble, they would do 75% marksmanship, you know, they'd split it up that way. But generally, about half-half, that's a pretty good mix for most people as far as their live ammo goes. You guys have any questions about training? Anyone?
What's a Blake drill?
It's 3 targets. It's like, have you ever seen El Presidente?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just shoot 2 on each of those targets with that array setup. It's called a Blake drill because there's Blake Miguez. Somebody named it after him at some point, so I just...
So it's doubles on 3 targets as fast as you can go? Is
So
that
Presidente without the reload and without turning
It's
around.
shooting. It's 3 targets, 1 yard apart. You draw and shoot them all.
Got it.
It's an interesting drill because that's a standard drill that a lot of people shoot. So shooting that and getting a sense of how the times stack up, it gives you a good sense of where you are, you know, in the
So would that
broader
be
shooting
considered a
community.
marksmanship drill?
No,
No.
Non.
it's target transitions.
Target transition.
Didn't consider transitions marksmanship.
I don't put it in the bucket of just marksmanship. Yeah, marksmanship's in play all the time, but if you're shooting that, the controlling factor is going to be the target transitions.
So the drill we just did would be considered transition drill?
Yeah,
as
that's a
well?
target transition thing. To me, like, it's kind of arbitrary.
Because I know for me, that's target transitioning is a big area for me for improvement.
That's once you get fast at drawing, reloading, once you understand movement technique, pretty much what most people work on at that point is target transitions, you know? Like that's where most of the time gets cut off by top shooters is target acquisition and transitions. They're just faster at acquiring targets and shooting them.
And that's vision training, or I guess
It's also like your vision has to do what you want. You have to look to small spots in the target. Your body has to cooperate with you and not overdrive the gun and that kind of thing.
Isn't there
training in
some
many
benefit
respects.
to do that? Maybe at first do it so fast, and you might even get 3 or 4 mics, but you got to teach your body what fast is.
I completely agree with that.
Because when I first started, I thought a 2-second Blake drill was humanly impossible, and then all of a sudden you just do it and you throw the rounds out, and of course you suck at first.
Yeah,
Then you teach your body, hey, this is what 2 seconds feels like.
when I started shooting, my first goal was to shoot a bill drill in 2 seconds. Right? And that was the strategy I used to get it. Like I could do like slow fire group shooting, but like my first goal was just to get the gun out of the holster and get 6 shots out of the gun in 2 seconds just to see what that was about. You know, because I was with you, like this doesn't seem like it's a thing that I could do. So it was just get out of the gun and then get acclimated to that speed and then drive them into the target. You'll notice my philosophy is not like the standard training would be like deductive training, where it's like you kind of build up your skills, build up your speed, step by step, right? The way I do it is I'll set, hey, this is the pace that your body works at, right? Or this is how fast you're going to go in a match under your pressure. And we work at that speed, and it's saying, hey, we're going to fix the issue at speed. Slowing down is not really the solution we're looking for. You know what I mean? I think people learn a lot faster that way, especially if they're predisposed to be turtles and be, you know, constantly like wanting to rein it in and be accurate. It's good. Well, gentlemen, you don't have to thank me. This is my job. I like doing this. It's fun for me.
He wants a refund because he already has your book.
Fair enough.
He told me that.
I'm gonna give this as a gift to my shooting buddy.
See, that's a nice gift.
So, quick question, like, so for instance, like, obviously, you pointed out, and I keep on doing it, when I'm shooting multiple targets, I mean, as I transition from target to target, basically, I guess my eyes start to get lazy, and I'm no longer picking up points, and now I'm just looking at the entire, just see brown, and I slap the trigger. And that seems to be,
So there's a drill in there for that.
That seems to be what.
that seems to be my, what I've been doing, multiple targets, as I'm getting more and more sloppy as I'm going along.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, right. I mean, you pointed that out because as my later targets.
So you could just go home, set up some targets in a rando array, and just look, aim at each one, and then speed it up, and be really hard on yourself with a visual precision. Yeah, I mean that if that's an issue, like you just have to take it to dry fire and ingrain the habit that you want. No.
Which is the drill in here for live fire that you say is good for the kind of picking out a point on
For
the
you.
target?
Well, it seemed to be anything target transition related, but I'll find you. Anything target transition related is going to be big on that. Yeah. So here's like the vanilla target transitions drill. Sample setup, transition vision drills, and so on. Another thing I should say about this, just to make sure it makes sense, you got to do all of these things all the time. Your grip, your vision, body tension, whatever, all of the techniques in play all the time. The different drills, like I said, it's just about layering it so you're working on the thing you want to work on in the most direct way possible. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's like, in a sense, like every drill is a vision drill. Every drill is a marksmanship drill. Every drill is a grip drill in a certain sense. But if you like certain drills are like really highlight certain issues in a really direct way. And that's kind of how it's structured.
And I just bought the book maybe a month and a half ago, and I set up a dry fire thing in the garage with your targets. And I've been doing a lot the random transition, visual moving your dot around, and very helpful.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and you just have to check with yourself that you're easy to cheat.
The biggest problem with dry fire is people they live by the timer and they start cheating like motherfuckers.
Yeah,
That's what I found.
Stopped using the timer.
You're not
for a while.
accountable for the accuracy and the trigger press and
And hopefully your live fire training gives you some exposure and it'll make you accountable. Like make yourself accountable for, gripping the gun realistically in dry fire, pulling the trigger realistically to actually simulate real challenges that you're going to have. That's effective dry fire as opposed to just, whipping the gun out and getting the time you want and there's no accountability. Because that's not good training. And this is also, I should also say, this is why you don't hear me talking about like, hey, you have to dry fire 2 hours a night or you're stupid or something. I'm not saying that. 15 minutes with the attention where it needs to be, 20 minutes is a lot. It's very good. If you're doing it right, that's great. Like nobody has the attention span to be running hours. Like it's just nobody can do that. When you think about just like just the amount of repetitions we did here the last couple of days of race, right? If you think about like a dry fire movement drill, you have an aggressive movement from one spot to another, or maybe 2 movements at a time. How many times, if you run that 30 times at home, just the movement piece of it, you're probably going to be toast, right? 30 times in the space of 10 minutes to do like really explosive movements. Like that's not that many reps. So you think just to do 300 reps of that would take 2 weeks or 5 days a week doing it, and you'd be smoked every time. And that's just the reality of it. So go hard, but for a short amount of time is my advice. Gentlemen, are you done shooting, or would you like to shoot the stage?
I'm fried.
I'll shoot the stage.
You what?
I'll shoot.
All right, we're gonna watch Mike and Tyler shoot the stage, and then we'll tear it down.
what you showed me, what you were showing before about PA triggers?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, guys. Now we're going to do rapid fire shooting. What we were doing was not. Okay, let me demonstrate what I want, and we'll talk about it. Ah. Okay, so here we're going to be shooting rapid fire pairs as opposed to single shots. Your target, I still want you, of course, to look at that coin-sized spot, but we're going to consider this as a USPSA target again, meaning as we back up, of course, you start getting some C's. That's kind of part of the plan, so don't freak out about like that. What we're trying to do, of course, is shoot a nice concentric pattern. You know, concentric, not shifted one way or the other, but concentric, and then we can just control how accurate we want to be with how fast we're shooting. Okay, so realistically speaking, in a match, when you're 5 yards away from a target like this and you see your sight flash in the center, what do?
Pull the trigger.
Slap the trigger. How fast?
Very fast.
Very fast, like as fast as you can, right? Gets two, as fast as you can pull the trigger. Yes, okay, so this, instead of reactive shooting, where we're gonna react to the sight every time it comes down individually, this is predictive shooting, meaning based on training and experience, we have a pretty good idea how the gun's gonna behave in recoil, right? You know, a full-size adult male holding like a 9mm pistol, like tight, standing like this, we understand how it's gonna behave. It's gonna be fairly tame, right? Yes. Okay. So it's important to have a distinction here when we start talking about predictive shooting. So what I mean is, you're going to see the sight and you're going to fire 2 shots as fast as you can pull the trigger. Things are, and I don't want you to close your eyes and not see what's happening, right? So you're not going to confirm the second shot, but I want you to still see what's happening. Do you get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so instead, a lot of guys, when they hear like, oh, pull the trigger twice, they might as well close their eyes and shoot 2. It's not what I want. I want you to see how the sight's behaving in recoil, and that's going to help you adjust. Okay, so if you see the sight flying up off the target, what do you think you should do?
Wait till it come down, shadows a little bit.
Well, either I'm going to grip the gun harder, or I'm going to slow down the pace of my shooting. One or the other. Okay, depending on the distance. Right? How far away do you think we can still shoot full rip with the trigger?
7, 10.
Yeah, 7, 10. Maybe then like an open gun or like a really nicely put together CO gun, like 15 yards.
Right.
And you start shooting major, maybe 20 yards. Like you can go pretty far back with this. All right, but again, I want you to be seeing what's happening, and that helps you correct the next pair. Let's back up a little bit. Let's come back here to the. So at this distance, still full speed, you reckon?
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm seeing there is my dot has this pattern where it just goes up and down. It doesn't go over the top of the shoulders. I look at that, I say, like, yep, I feel super controlled. If this were me practicing, what would I do now?
Go faster.
Go faster, move back further, something. Okay? This is essentially what we're going to be doing. We'll be doing this predictive shooting, rapid fire pairs, backing up so you get a good sense of how your gun's going to behave. At some point, you need to switch to that reactive shooting, sight press. All right? But this, like, you can't learn predictive shooting without playing around and understanding how your gun behaves. Where most people arrive at close range like this, you should be able to be shooting literally as fast as you can pull the trigger without diving the gun or without the gun getting away from you. That should happen. Then, you know, as you back up, you're going to have to start to get more towards reacting to each sight picture. But again, you're going to be surprised what you can get away with. As far as corrections for this drill, over tense firing hand. Like if you're trying to shoot really fast pairs, maybe you get the trigger freeze. If you're over tense firing hand, maybe you dive the gun down. Insufficient support hand pressure, the gun gets away from you. What happens if I focus on the dot or the front sight instead of the target? Yeah, they're going to track up off the target typically. Okay, that'll cover most of the things that are likely to happen here. Any questions? All right, cool. Let's give it a go. Ready. All right. So what we did this morning, we did slow fire shooting, we did reacting to the sight for every shot, and we did rapid fire pairs. Pretty similar. Focal points, right? For the different, we're focused on grip, making sure you look at the, look at a small spot of the target, grip the gun properly, and then just try to manage the recoil while you're shooting without messing things up. Okay, so in a given year, this type of stuff this morning is about half my practice rounds. What do you think about that? Yeah, so I mean, if you really look at it, what we were just doing, this rapid fire pair stuff, that part of your grip, like your grip and how you behave under recoil with the gun, we need ammo to practice this. We need it. Okay, there's a lot of things you can practice dry fire really well, and we could do some trigger control stuff or whatever. But the bottom line is you have to be able to run the gun without flexing moving the gun around, and it takes ammo to you have to experience it, you have to feel it under recoil. It's kind of like trying to explain the color pink to a blind person, right? And it's, you don't have any frame of reference. Like, no, you just hold the gun, shoot it, and like really pay attention to your hands. You feel what's happening, you feel what you're doing, you kind of progress and evolve over time. It's about half my ammo in a year. Seriously, I shoot a lot of ammo on this, and it's because I need ammo to practice this, and then think, for dynamic movement, target transitions, do we need a lot of ammo to practice that? No, not really. Yeah, it's like you kind of test yourself, but you can practice running around and transitioning the gun. You don't need as much ammo to confirm that. This, we need ammo. That's why we shot up a ton of ammo on this stuff. Any questions about the morning? All right, I think it's a good time to punch, huh? Cool, let's do that.